Today's episode of Off the Timeline is titled The Year SMU Broke Conference Expansion. What if, in 2022, SMU did something no program outside the power conferences had ever done? They didn't beg for an invite. They didn't leak through reporters. They didn't wait their turn. They forced a major conference to expand and then watch it fail publicly. And what happened next quietly rewrote how college football decides who belongs. This isn't the story of SMU getting left out. This is the story of what happens when a school wins so hard the ladder collapses underneath it. Now let's set the table really quick. This video isn't about whether SMU deserved a conference invite. It's about what happens when a program grows beyond the assumptions the sport is built on. Because once SMU crossed that line, conferences stopped being safe, expansion stopped being automatic, and winning stopped guaranteeing protection. To understand how that happened, we have to start in a place no one expected to matter. And that sets the table to 2010 and the decision that doesn't look big yet. In 2010, SMU looks fine. They're barely crawling back from the shadows. They're bowl eligible. They're respectable. And that's the problem. Respectable was the ceiling unless SMU did something irrational. Instead of treating success like a fragile gift, SMU treated it like leverage. They didn't ask, how do we protect this? They asked, how do we make this unfair? And that mindset shapes everything that follows. And that sets the table to the first uncomfortable truth that SMU outgrows the American Athletic Conference fast. By the early 2010s, SMU's not just good, they're structurally advantaged. Dallas recruiting, NIL before NIL, national branding without political baggage. And on the field, it starts showing up immediately. 2012, 10-3 at the conference title. 2013, 11-2 at the New Year's Six win. 2014, 12-1 and on the playoff bubble. 2015, 11-2 and playoff controversy. 2016, 10-3 still on top. That isn't parity, that's gravity. And when gravity shows up, conferences notice, even if they don't want to admit it. And that sets the table for the misread on why conferences think SMU will wait. And the assumption everyone makes, and it's the most important mistake in this alternate universe, conferences assume SMU is patient, that they'll wait for the phone to ring, that they'll accept a quiet invite whenever it comes. That assumption works right up until the playoff expands, because expansion changes the math and SMU sees it before anyone else does. And that sets the table for 2021 where SMU stops playing quiet. In 2021, SMU goes 11-2, wins the conference, wins a New Year's Six Bowl, finishes top 8. And then they do something unheard of. They speak publicly. No leaks, no deniability, a direct statement. We will not remain in a capped conference once playoff expansion is finalized. That sentence doesn't rattle anyone. It forces an answer. And this sets the table for the ACC overplaying its hand. In 2022, SMU follows it up with a 12-1 season. One loss. First team out of the CFP. Now the pressure is real. The ACC tries to act in control. They float expansion. They center it on SMU. But behind the scenes, ESPN hesitates. Tobacco Road fractures. Presidents argue over dilution. And then for the first time in modern college football, an expansion attempt collapses in public. No invite, no delay, just failure. And this sets the table to where the sport breaks. SMU doesn't get rejected quietly. Instead, something far worse happens. Everyone realizes conferences are no longer guaranteed to catch you when you jump. And SMU learns the most dangerous lesson of all. They don't actually need permission. And that sets the table for 2023 to 2024, where SMU wins without a ladder. In 2023, with the conference structure wobbling, SMU goes 11-2. No conference title game, no safety net. They get an at-large playoff bid anyways. They win. They win a playoff game, and suddenly the unthinkable happens. A school outside the playoff structure wins a playoff game after breaking expansion. In 2024, SMU goes 12-1, schedules aggressively, wins against multiple power programs, reaches the playoff semifinals. The system absolutely cannot punish them without exposing itself. And that sets the table for the retaliation phase. By 2025, the pushback comes. Scheduling dries up, media tone hardens, selection debates get louder. SMU still goes 10-3. They still make the playoff. They still survive. In 2026, they go 11-2 with another playoff win. At this point, SMU has done something no blueprint accounts for. They've become undeniable without belonging. And that sets the table for what actually changed. SMU didn't break conferences by leaving one. They broke them by proving expansion can fail, winning can replace logos, and admission doesn't need permission anymore. After this, schools stop waiting quietly, conferences stop assuming loyalty, and the playoff stops pretending it's neutral. SMU never becomes the face of a conference. They become something much more dangerous. The first program to grow so strong, the system had to admit it couldn't control them anymore. And once that happened, college football was never stable again. And if you want to explore more stories like this, where more conferences finally snap, let me know, because this was only the first crack.